Hey everyone, it's time to talk about the paneling of One Piece Chapter 1105. This week we mostly have dialogue scenes to break down, but there's still a couple of interesting action pages. I hope you enjoy, and let's get right into it. We start the chapter with a panel composition that flows outward, just as the Marines run. This gives the eye lines to follow and aligns with the direction they move as you read the panel then go to the next. The same thing is happening in the panel after that, as the eye aligns with the running Marines and travels, just as they are, on a journey toward the ships. The panel ellipsis continues to be one of Oda's signature techniques, helping us transition to another location. Rather than being at the start of a scene, it's squeezed between two panels. If it wasn't there, this scene would be jarring, but with it, we can quickly understand that Doll is back at the city, not at the ships. For something so small, it adds so much clarity. Kizaru and Saturn form the perfect line for the eye to follow across the next panel. Size is, as usual, used to convey power and importance, as Saturn's decision overrules Doll. Her lack of control is matched by how small she is in the panel. All of this went into this one page, and it's not even a particularly special one. We aren't stopping to take it in, and none of these techniques are next level. But even a page as ordinary as this one can have this much going into it. At least in One Piece it will. What I like about the scene of Vegapunk and Saturn is how Saturn doesn't just loom over the scientist, but surrounds him. It's like his spider legs are the bars of a cage around Vegapunk. Kizaru, meanwhile, is hiding down in the corner, looking away from where the others are on the page, shamed by his refusal to help Vegapunk. Remember, where characters are relative to each other on the page matters just as much as where they are relative to each other within panels. In this chapter and many before it, Saturn is consistently angled diagonally. Since the eye is moving left, it moves downward as it goes, and this makes it feel like Saturn is looking downward on someone even when he's alone in his panel. The transition over to the Straw Hats comes with a nice looking zoom into their location. The big panel of them is full of details, with how well Usopp and Nami's personalities shine through their body language, and the tilted equilateral triangle that defines the composition. It's a strong shape, but not positioned so stable, just as these characters need to keep moving. But what really stands out about this panel is the dialogue flow. This is a forest of speech bubbles, so how do we know what order to read them in? Firstly, it's divided into columns, with gaps between them. Starting from the top right, the one below is way closer than the one to the left, so the eye is drawn downward. Secondly, it's full of lines that draw you to where you should go next. Once you finish the first column, Nami's arm and leg, and really her whole body, pull you up to the next. From there, the line in the background pulls you over to the third column. And once you're down at the bottom, Usopp's limbs draw you over to Robin and Chopper. Thirdly, the dialogue is designed such that even if you do read it out of order, it's pretty much fine. This isn't a complex back and forth between two people. If it was, it wouldn't have been organized this way in the first place. What it is a bunch of separate threads that don't affect each other. Between the bottom right, where Nami talks about Zoro and Jinbei, and the top left where she talks about like 5 different characters, it doesn't matter which you read first or which group you learn about first. Usopp's freakout then has no connection to Nami's report, and Chopper's little island of dialogue can be read at basically any point. So the panel is full of techniques to make sure the eye reads it smoothly and intuitively, but it also makes sure not to punish you if you break its rules. As we move on to the next page, we get some more proper alignment of motion with the eye, as Brook and Lilith pilot the Sunny. But what I find more remarkable on this page is the slow build-up to the chaos of a Buster call. Something I only recently started to notice is how Oda uses aspect-to-aspect panel transitions before his big splash pages. Transitions that aren't progressing time, but show different areas of the scene. These let it set a mood, building tension of what's going on before showing the whole thing. The size of the battle feels larger for how it contrasts the small individual elements. Compared to the final page of the last chapter, the Marine ships here are positioned more chaotically and control a lot more panel space, which tells us a lot about how the battle is starting out. There are some good smaller details on the page after that. Oda loves using the flashes of light before a laser fires to guide the eye, and here it leads straight into the curved ground that emphasizes the explosion. Even the trees bend around it. Techniques to draw the eye and techniques to bend perspective and emphasize an impact are being blended together here. And there's some good pure visual storytelling in how Vegapunk is forced to watch everything he's built fall apart. The once tall straight lines of his skyscrapers are falling down and collapsing. Finally though, it's time to talk about an action page. It starts with the squad shooting down a pneumatic tube. I always wanted to ride one of those. Do you guys remember the cartoon George Shrinks? It went hard when I was a kid. That's the dream, I guess. Anyway, here it gives us some good old diagonal movement in a fun shape to follow. But Kizaru appears, and that's where it gets interesting. As the eye travels down from his panel, it aligns with the direction of his attack, as well as the direction the front of the capsule is falling off in after being sliced away. Yet what's really cool is that it's not just the linear direction that you feel, it's the curve of how his blade of light swings around from one panel to the next that pops out so visually. Blending linear motion with rotation makes for some really dynamic, interesting looking pages. The final page of the chapter uses a similar technique as the page of the Buster Call, with small panels to contrast how large the impending scene is. But there's still a lot of effort put into the small panels at the top, as the eye goes down and then up as it travels across them, keeping it from feeling too flat. From there, the eye can go diagonally down with Kuma and everyone. This is a great example of how a manga panel can decompress time, how it can incite us to slow down and linger in a moment, to make a brief instant feel like it lasts forever. The wide perspective, the contrast between the dark foreground and the light background, and the amount of detail below them all serve to make us slow down and feel like they're hanging in the air in the eternity before they're executed. Before I get to a special news segment at the end, let's talk about the final two panels in the chapter. They are a great payoff to the imagery we got when Saturn claimed to have had a ship destroyed. We get a similar shot here, subverted with the reveal that it was actually a marine ship that perished. By recontextualizing some tension from before, it gives the chapter a sense of resolution, even though this is literally a cliffhanger. Now there's something new I want to try. Let's give an award to the best panel of the chapter. I don't know if I'll do this every week, but we're trying it here. The obvious choice is Kizaru's slash. What can I say? I love a dynamic action page that conveys multiple complex movements in a clear way. The sword swing is just too clean, is what I would have said, but actually we're picking the one where Luffy is full of food and gets surrounded by the Marines, cause this one's funnier. Make sure you subscribe for next week's video, comment what you think the best panel of the chapter is, and like the video if you hate Saturn. And I guess hate the video if you like Saturn? I don't know.